In Mexico, as rescuers continue to dig for more earthquake survivors, there is growing concern about health and sanitation. The French government has admitted guilt in the sinking of the Rainbow Warrior, and tens of thousands of people have gathered in Champaign, Illinois on this Sunday to aid American farmers.
NBC Nightly News, reported by John Palmer.
Good evening. In Mexico City, the search goes on. Rescuers using dogs searched for survivors trapped under rubble once again today as international aid poured in to help Mexico cope with two earthquakes that killed thousands and left many more thousands homeless. Tom Brokaw is heading our coverage in Mexico and has a series of reports from there tonight.
Good evening from Mexico City, which is still struggling to deal with the enormity of this tragedy. I arrived in Mexico City expecting to find much of the sprawling capital flattened. It is not. Throughout much of Mexico City today, life went on. A normal Sunday afternoon in September. Children in the park, traffic jams. Most of the buildings in Mexico City are intact. But in those areas where the earthquake did its damage, the death and the suffering are enormous. Don Oliver begins our coverage tonight with a report on the international rescue efforts.
After more than 3 days, cries for help are still coming from deep in the wreckage of the Juarez Hospital. Yesterday, miraculously, 58 babies were found alive in the crushed maternity ward of another hospital. This woman was rescued today from the ruins of her apartment building. But the hours of rescue and revival are taking a terrible toll. These nurses collapsed after 3 days of virtually no sleep and little food. All of the workers are dog-tired, but they haven't given up. They are making progress, but it has been exceedingly slow. The equipment which is arriving has not been here long enough to do much good. A U.S. Air Force C-5A arrived late last night with demolition equipment to destroy buildings in danger of collapse, and with helicopters for firefighting and for aerial reconnaissance. Dogs and their handlers from California have gone into the field to sniff wreckage for victims. At least 18 countries have responded thus far to the need for help in coping with the disaster. This is a West German team combing the ruins of a vocational school where hundreds are known to be trapped. From the U.S., a miniature television camera snaked inside tubing into the rubble and sending a picture back to workers outside. The French brought sensitive monitoring devices which they lowered into the school. They found little to be happy about. While the listening was going on, the rescue workers stood quiet as mice, their faces masked against the smell of death and the danger of disease. Authorities have begun to inoculate and vaccinate, fearing that the tragedy could be made far worse by an outbreak of infectious disease. Don Oliver, NBC News, Mexico City.
Most of the residents of Mexico City, an estimated 18 million people live here, many of them in shanty towns with no jobs and no prospects for the future. Now they face a future that is even more bleak as a result of what they are calling El Grande, the big one. Robin Lloyd has spent this day with just some of the untold number of victims.
At daybreak, the streets of Mexico City were filled with the homeless, sleeping in parks, on top of cars, wherever they could now call home. Slowly, painfully, the people are telling their stories. All our friends are dead, said this woman. What will we do now? For Carmen Vasquez, who lost two of her daughters, there's little left to return to. Thousands of people have been ordered by the government to leave their homes for their own safety. For Jose Cuellar, it is especially painful. His 82-year-old mother was killed just outside his door. Maria Sanchez has no place to go. She tells her story the only way a deaf-mute can. Many streets like this one have been closed off because of the destruction and the danger of disease. In this case, at least 8 bodies still have not been recovered from the ruins of an apartment building. Neighborhood clinics are trying to control the hysteria.
People are still hysteric. They can't find loved ones. There was a girl here yesterday, a young girl, that lost her 2-year-old daughter. She hasn't found her yet.
17-year-old Gloria Uribe waited all yesterday for word of her husband. Today they told her his body had been pulled out of the rubble last night. For many, the tragedy has only just begun. Robin Lloyd, NBC News, Mexico City.
It was not just Mexico City that was hit by the earthquake, of course. Because of the size of the city and the number of people that are packed in here, the dimensions are much greater in the capital. But as Kenley Jones discovered when he visited a coastal village, a tragedy of this magnitude cannot be measured by size alone.
The death and destruction and grief have not been confined to Mexico City. Figures are incomplete, but it's believed that perhaps as many as 100 people were killed in 4 provinces of western Mexico. One of them was 88-year-old Rosalio Lucas. He survived a major earthquake which shook his home back in 1941, but this time he did not. He died when the walls of his adobe house collapsed. Lucas lived in the valley town of Ciudad Guzman. 22 people, including Lucas, were killed here. Scores of homes were destroyed. Churches, the town's tallest structures, were also damaged. The clock on one of them is stopped at the time the earthquake rumbled through town last Thursday morning. A few miles away, in the village of Gomez Farias, morning mass was in progress in the village church when the earthquake struck. No one was hurt, but the church was so heavily damaged it cannot be used. Services were held this morning in a small open-air courtyard next to the church and in a farm building on the outskirts of town. Father Silvano Lopez Correa said he did not try to philosophize to his parishioners this morning about why disaster struck. He said he simply told them to be thankful they are alive, to put the earthquake behind them, and to get on with their life's work. Kenley Jones, NBC News, Gomez Farias, Mexico.
Tom Brokaw is standing by now at outside the ruins of a hospital there in Mexico City. Tom, we understand there's another rescue going on right now there.
John, there's an extraordinary life and death drama going on here. If we widen out, we'll show you. You can see Swiss and French rescue teams with specially trained dogs. They're expert at getting bodies out of the rubble. They have identified in there and have been in touch with a doctor who is alive in the rubble of the Juarez hospital. They made an earlier attempt to get him out. They failed that time because they were pulled back by the Mexican army, saying that they think that they have a couple of other people alive on the other side and they want to move in heavy equipment. Just a few moments ago, the Swiss and the French team were given permission under a strict time limit to try to get that doctor out. He is alive. Today is his 23rd birthday. He's standing in a relatively secure area, but it's very difficult to get to him. There goes one of the workers right now, as you can see from the French rescue team. They're here with all of their equipment and with dogs, and they're going to attempt to get the doctor out as best they can. Whether or not this will work, we just don't know. We're prepared to stand by, of course. There are literally thousands of these kinds of dramas being played out throughout Mexico City today. There are another 400 people who were in this hospital, doctors, residents, and patients. We don't think that the fate for them will be quite as hopeful as it is for this single doctor.
Thank you, Tom. And as we know, First Lady Nancy Reagan will be paying a visit to the devastated areas in Mexico City tomorrow. Among the other stories we'll be reporting on tonight, a decision by the finance ministers of the 5 major industrial nations to ease pressure on the dollar and fight trade protectionism. And again, Mexico, where solemn processions marked a day of mourning and burial for the victims of the earthquake.
City feet, country feet, fleet feet, neat feet.
No matter how you treat your feet, Dr. Scholl's makes you feel like dancing with double comfort air pillow insoles, hidden comfort half insoles for high heel shoes, workday insoles for hard-working feet, scented Fresh Step insoles.
Tired feet, active feet.
Dr. Scholl's has all kinds of comfort for all kinds of feet, right here.
Dr. Scholl's makes you feel like dancing.
Hope you like sugar, because this box contains not 1, not 2, but 6 added teaspoons. This has 10, and this 18. And spoon-size shredded wheat, none. When you shred the wheat for better toasting, it tastes great naturally. So it goes against our grain to add sugar, or even salt. Nabisco shredded wheat, 0 added sugar or salt. 100% whole wheat.
There are lots of furnaces you can choose for your home. But for the most efficient energy, forget all but the gas furnaces. And to cut energy costs further, consider only the high-efficiency gas furnaces. Of those, only one has advanced pulse technology, the Lennox Pulse Furnace. It will make your heating more efficient.
Take it from Dave Lennox. You can save a lot of gas with a Pulse.
Attaboy, Dave!
Gas, America's best energy value.
In Paris, a major political scandal. Tonight, the Premier of France, Laurent Fabius, admitted that it was indeed French intelligence agents acting on orders from their superiors who sank the anti-nuclear protest ship, the Rainbow Warrior, in New Zealand earlier this summer. Jim Bitterman reports from Paris.
French television anchormen were in the middle of their evening newscasts when the Prime Minister broke in to make his dramatic announcement. Agents from the French Secret Service, Laurent Fabius said, sank the Rainbow Warrior, the Greenpeace protest ship. The Prime Minister explained that the new defense minister who stood at his side during the declaration had told him about what the Prime Minister calls the cruel truth. And the Prime Minister said he's ordered a parliamentary investigation into the whole affair. The commentators called the announcement a complete surprise and were immediately speculating that since a parliamentary investigation could be extremely damaging, the Prime Minister and President must feel the Greenpeace scandal cannot be linked to them. But tonight's revelation alone is damaging enough. That a democratic government in peacetime would send a team of agents to blow up an unarmed ship in a foreign port and in the process kill someone is nothing short of extraordinary, as the press has been saying for days. The Prime Minister said tonight that elder statesman Bernard Tricot, the man who prepared the first French investigation into the Greenpeace affair, an investigation that exonerated the government, that Tricot had been lied to. And now there is much speculation about the role of the former defense minister. A friend of French President Mitterrand for decades, he was forced to resign on Friday because he did not or could not from the beginning discover the truth about French involvement in the sinking of the Rainbow Warrior. Tonight's revelations mark truly a low moment for France, a nation which prides itself in its respect for human justice and the individual's right to protest, a right which the government's agents half the world away tried to deny Greenpeace. Jim Bitterman, NBC News, Paris.
In this country, National Security Advisor Robert McFarlane said today that chances are good that the United States and the Soviet Union will reach some kind of an arms control agreement within a year. Appearing on ABC's This Week, McFarlane said the accord will probably include limits on both offensive and defensive weapons.
Here's the sound of a cold or allergy. Now listen to the new sound of relief. Dimetap was the #1 cold and allergy brand prescribed by doctors for over 20 years. Now Dimetap is available in new non-prescription formulas. 12-hour Dimetap Extend tabs relieve sneezing, stuffy runny nose, itchy eyes. 4-hour Dimetap Elixir does the same for children. Dimetap brings effective relief to you.
There's a time when others make decisions for you.
This one.
Later on, you make your own decisions. Now, many of you are being asked to make an important one. If you don't choose a long-distance company, one will be chosen for you, and it might not be the right one for you. So if the AT&T services you've always counted on are important to you, be sure to mail in the ballot you'll be receiving. This one, please. There's one way to be sure the right choice is made. Make it yourself. AT&T, the right choice.
Your days go by fast. Your work never seems to end.
That's why Whirlpool washers and dryers are designed to make your world a little easier. They have a super wash cycle for the dirtiest dirt and a gentle cycle for your delicate knits. Whirlpool, quality appliances.
Remember your
Finance ministers from the 5 major Western industrial nations held an economic summit in New York City today with high hopes of cooperation to make American goods more competitive overseas. NBC's chief economic correspondent, Irving R. Levine, reports on what was accomplished.
It was an extraordinary meeting at a time when economic problems are crowding in on the Reagan administration. Extraordinary because Treasury Secretary Baker's previous sessions with the finance ministers of Britain, France, West Germany, and Japan have always been private. The same when Federal Reserve Chairman Paul Volcker meets with top bank officials. This time, the officials cheerfully sought publicity for their meeting, taking place less than 24 hours before President Reagan makes a speech at the White House. A speech aimed at discouraging Congress from enacting drastic measures to stop the flood of foreign cars, shoes, and a variety of other products. Imports that are pushing the U.S. trade deficit to a staggering $150 billion this year. The United States called the meeting at this New York hotel to ask the other nations for help. Help in strengthening the president's hand to fight off protectionist legislation in Congress. The U.S. did get a statement supporting President Reagan's position.
We agreed that turning towards protectionism would be very dangerous for the world economy and that it is essential to resist pressures for restrictive trade measures.
On the key question of strengthening other currencies and weakening the dollar to make U.S. goods less expensive and easier to sell overseas, only hints.
Maybe our discussions can contribute, but they cannot really command markets.
Which means it is now up to currency traders on world money markets to judge whether today's meeting has done anything new to reduce the U.S. trade deficit. If the markets are not impressed, the trade deficit will stay high, and Congress is likely to crack down on imports despite the president's wishes. Irving R. Levine, NBC News, New York.
The Chinese Communist Party leadership is getting an infusion of young blood. 178 new members have been elected to the powerful Central Committee with an average age of just 50. Western diplomats say it's the smoothest transition of power in China since the communists took over back in 1949. The agony of South Africa gets most of the attention here in the United States, but Mozambique, another African nation in turmoil, is being ripped apart by civil war. Some people risked everything they had in Mozambique looking for refuge in white-governed South Africa. But as John Cochran reports tonight, they are not welcome there.
Some walked 400 miles, leaving their own black-ruled country for white-governed South Africa, and they risked their lives doing it. Some lost the gamble. Some were blown up by Mozambican landmines. Some were attacked by wild animals. These are the stronger ones, the ones who didn't wait until they were half-starved to flee Mozambique. Still, they are malnourished and suffering from malaria and skin diseases. They came here to rebuild their lives, having experienced the indescribable, caught in a civil war where they refused to choose sides and where they saw relatives gang-raped, beheaded, and boiled alive. After that, the horrors of apartheid held little fear for them. But South Africa doesn't want them and herds them for shipment back to Mozambique.
Mozambique had suffered so much, so long, that last year its Marxist president came here to this border town to sign a peace treaty with the white South African president.
South Africa's President Botha promised to send economic help and to stop sending weapons to the rebels who are trying to overthrow President Michel. The Mozambican rebels are a shadowy bunch. They're fighting a Marxist government, but no one is sure what their own politics are. The only sure thing is that civil war is bleeding Mozambique to death, and President Michel claims that South Africa has reneged on its promises of help. Meanwhile, South Africa continues to deport Mozambican refugees back to their own country, to a future so bleak that even life under white domination looked better. John Cochran, NBC News, on the border of Mozambique and South Africa.
You want strong medicine. I mean Anacin.
Anacin. 23% more medicine than regular pain relievers. Anacin stops pain fast.
More medicine. No more Just another quiet day on the job.
Anderson, more medicine.
Sam Zuby?
Yes, ma'am?
You may not be the biggest or the toughest football player at Dover High School, but I like the way you tackled algebra. You got a B, Sam.
I got a B?
Congratulations.
I got a B!
And you earned it.
I got a B! All right! I couldn't have done this without you, Coach.
Thanks, Sam. Next term, trigonometry.
Serena Grant. Isn't she the kind of teacher you want teaching your kids? So does the NEA.
Corned beef with mustard.
Cream and cheese on the road.
Don't forget the pickles.
You know, most any food or drink can cause bad breath. That's why I carry Clorettes, the breath deodorant. Only Clorettes has Actisol with chlorophyll, which helps your mouth's freshening power clean up bad breath fast. It's breath protection that tastes great. Of course, Clorettes cost more, but it's worth it. Clorettes, the breath deodorant, because you have bad breath more often than you think.
A light rain for most of the day failed to deter some of the nation's top rock, country, and blues singers who turned out to aid the nation's farmers. From Champaign, Illinois, Jim Cummins reports on the big Farm Aid concert.
The first of 80,000 people showed up early at the University of Illinois football stadium for the concert. Some said they paid $17.50 a ticket to aid the farmers.
We can talk about the bombers and the defense and everything else, but if we lose all of our food, well, we won't have anything to defend.
Others came just to hear the music.
It's not often you can get to a concert with that many musicians for the price of one concert.
Thank y'all very much and welcome to Farm Aid, the concert for America. On the road again. I just can't wait to get on the road again.
More than 50 of the top entertainers in the country scheduled to perform for 14 hours. Chris Christopherson, Kenny Rogers, Charlie Daniels, and Merle Haggard, whose father lost his farm during the Dust Bowl in the 1930s.
If the amber waves of grain should disappear, and there were no wheat or barley anywhere.
While Merle was singing, Melvin Coulter was feeding his hogs 23 miles away. Chores prevented Coulter and his family from attending the concert, but they did find time to listen to it on the radio.
This is doing a real good job of telling everybody in the cities about the farm problems.
Willie Nelson planned this concert to benefit farmers who are caught in the squeeze between high interest rates, low crop prices, and declining property values.
We're looking for a lot of money to come in today, folks, for a great cause.
Promoters of this spectacle expect to raise up to $50 million for farmers, barely enough to pay one day's interest on the national farm debt.
There's way too little money and way too many places to put it, so wherever it goes, it's going to go quick.
Tonight, nobody here is worried about where the money is going. They are just having a good time. Jim Cummins, NBC News, Champaign, Illinois.
Tell the truth. Is there a really great tasting decaffeinated coffee?
Oh, yes. Taster's Choice Decaffeinated. It's made with the same superior Arabica beans found in gourmet coffee stores. Naturally decaffeinated, using only water and natural decaffeinators for the purest coffee taste. Naturally decaffeinated Taster's Choice. One more reason why the choice for taste is Taster's Choice.
Morning is your time. The earth wakes up with you. Always feel that spark of life in everything that you do.
Grape nuts. For you, it's as natural as the morning. No sugar added, no preservatives. Just an honest, nutty crunch. Post Grape Nut cereal. You know when you have it good.
Yes, you know when you have it good.
I'm Bryant Gumbel. Next week on Today, a new expose on Marilyn Monroe.
I'm Jane Pauley. Also, Orson Welles, Bill Cosby, Luciano Pavarotti, and actor Griffin Dunn.
Next week on Today.
Look how water can destroy unprotected wood, but not if it's protected with Thompson's Water Seal. Use Thompson's Water Seal waterproofer on dozens of surfaces. Brush on Thompson's for an invisible barrier that helps prevent water from entering and damaging brick, wood, and concrete. Your house isn't really protected until it's protected with Thompson's Water Seal. Many stores now have special values on Thompson's Water Seal.
More than 1,600 bodies have been recovered so far in Mexico City. In addition to the physical task of restoring the city, Mexicans must now deal with their emotional response to tragedy on such a grand scale. Tom Brokaw has more.
Tragic death has always had a prominent place in Mexican history. Mourning and the rituals of death have played an important role in the Mexican culture. When there is death on this scale, the rituals of death must necessarily be abbreviated. But the mourning goes on. And Dennis Murphy has that story.
In a neighborhood where the damage was most severe, church bells called the residents to Mass. Just around the corner, where the Juarez hospital collapsed, there was more praying. Friends and families of victims pressed against the gate, hoping that the list of the dead did not show the name of a loved one. George Garcia of Oakland, California, has waited 24 hours for news of his mother-in-law, a hospital nutritionist.
Until we find otherwise, we think she's alive, and we're going to wait for her.
For too many families, there is no more waiting. The mourning has begun. Hundreds of people stood in line at a baseball stadium that had become an outdoor morgue. They filed past bodies, making identifications. The remains were placed in caskets. In the south of the city, graves have been dug. 1,500 people will be buried here. It is not all the dead. We may never know how many people died in this earthquake. It is a sorrow etched in the collective memory of this nation. Dennis Murphy, NBC News, Mexico City.
And once again, back outside the Juarez hospital here in Mexico City, the workers that you see going by now are engaged in an extraordinary life and death situation here. A doctor who has been trapped inside this collapsed hospital now for 3 or 4 days since the beginning of the earthquake has been discovered alive by a French rescue team called the Catastrophe Division. There was an argument between that team and the Mexican government. The Mexican army wanted to move in heavy equipment and they pulled the team out. They've now been permission to go back in, but they've been given a strict time limit. They must get him out this evening or they're going to put the bulldozers back in. The doctor is 23 years old. Today is his birthday, and everyone here, of course, hopes that this story will have a happy ending. I'm Tom Brokaw, NBC News in Mexico City.
Thank you, Tom. Well, that's NBC Nightly News for this Sunday. Tom will be reporting here, of course, tomorrow night from Mexico City. I'm John Palmer. Join us tomorrow morning for Sunrise and Today. And for all of us at NBC News, thank you and good evening.
Amazing Week starts tomorrow with the season premiere of TV's Boopers and a practical joke on Johnny Carson. Plus a driving lesson for Julie and Lennon you won't believe.
That is very funny.
Looking for a few good gags? Michael J. Fox stars in a world movie premiere.
That kind of throws a wrench into the works.
Family Ties Vacation tomorrow.
Wake up in Love's new comfy baby pants.
Love's introduces Baby Pants, a diaper with a comfort waistband.
Baby pants.
Love's new comfort waistband snuggles around your baby's waist to fit and stop leaking better than plain old diapers, even overnight. New Love's, the diaper with a comfort waistband.
I'm happy all night long. Oh no, you can't go wrong in Love's new comfy baby pants.
This week on Miller & Company, Dan talks with singer Dinah Shore.
I was singing at the studio, and my little one, my oldest child, she was very little at the time. We were riding down. I was taking her to nursery school and holding on to her, and, so she wouldn't fall over. She left us stand.